Hey everyone, this is Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 71 of Album of the Day, in which today's album is the 2006 album by a Grizzly Bear. It's called Yellow House, which I have a vinyl copy of it right here, released on Warp Records, an independent electronic label from London that typically releases electronic music, but here they have this, but Grizzly Bear leans in more kind of the indie rock kind of, side of them, since they're still technically an indie label because they're underground. And I'm going to dedicate this review to one of my favorite reviewers on the internet, Anthony Fantano, aka The Needle Drop, who's a really huge fan of this record. So Needle Drop, if you're watching, this is for you. And he also does have this on vinyl. So I figured I'd review it because I really like the album. Just started getting into it. Really nice vinyl. There isn't a gatefold in here. It's just a sleeve, but still, very nice vinyl going on here. And gonna get out the sleeves. Here's a few photos, and these are actually lyrics that are on there. And then there's the liner notes. Give you a closer look of them, even though it's kind of bright in here. Basically the thank yous and who played what, and stuff like that. And then there's like more photos. And I'll show you both the vinyls, because there's two in here, because this is a pretty long record. Here we have side A and side B. And here we have side C and side D. So yeah, that's my vinyl copy of Yellow House. So what I think really does captivate me about this record is how, it shows that, just a few simple elements can create such a beautiful piece of music. This is a song, and this is also an album where, it doesn't have to be the traditional, really wordy or, anything like that. It's definitely a very complex and, challenging but yet very rewarding album to listen to. It opens with the song Easier, which right off the bat shows you're in for a special record. I love the woodwind section on that track, along with the harmonies and, and then there's also this cool banjo in there that reminds me of Sufjan Stevens a little bit. So it's really, just a really nice track, opening into just, an overall fantastic record. And then you have, the song Lullaby, which starts out pretty quiet with the guitars and the glockenspiel and the harmonies, but it just, but yet again, another track that just shows that, it doesn't have to be all wordy to be a really nice, well done, piece of music. And I really like, that noisy, outro at the end of the song too, with the guitars, because, after the pretty soft melodic, intro, it's pretty nice to see a more kind of, offbeat, uh, outro to follow that. So, like, sounds kind of strange on paper, but it really manages to work out. And then you have the song Knife, which, like, the harmonies on that song are really great. The lyrics on it are, and like, there's only just a few lyrics on it, but, it doesn't need to be all wordy because it still manages to, create some depth with, with the album. And as one writer said about this record, or about this song, he said, song, turns out you can feel the knife when, when you listen to this track in a really good way. And then you have this more kind of, mysterious, there's definitely a mysterious side to this record too, with songs like Central and Remote with the, the xylophone and the, and like the, and the really low harmonies going on there. And the same thing sort of shows on the track Marla, which has this really nice string arrangement on it too. Plus there's some really nice, interplay between the guitar and the harmonies on here with tracks like Easier and Little Brother. They're on here. And the song, and just, also the flow of this record sounds really nice too. It isn't just a bunch of different fillers compiled together into this one record. Because I find there are some records that I really like that seem a little misplaced in terms of the track listing. Like Good News for People Who Love Bad News, the Breakout album by Modest Mouse. Really good album, really good songs on there, but, as far as the flow is concerned, it does seem a little misplaced and a little confusing. And some of the songs feel kind of like fillers to me. But this album, there's like no fillers whatsoever, and it all flows together into one just, I think the title Yellow House really fits in with the record too, because it has like, it doesn't sound really like a polished, sleek, or concise studio recording. It sounds more like just a good, home recording thing that, it sounds like something that maybe, someone and their buddies recorded in their basement because they had a bunch of weirdish thrift shop instruments and they just wanted to, create something simple and they didn't want to go out and try to get an outside producer to try to roll all the ideas out for them. Like, this is definitely a self-produced record. Like, a majority of it is produced by Chris Taylor, which makes sense because he's a pretty talented musician, not just with Grizzly Bear, but in general, and he's playing a bunch of different instruments like the flute and, bass and, the clarinet and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of, a good idea, and plus also I think it's kind of a good thing because there's only 10 songs on here. There are some albums where you're kind of like, oh, I wish there were more tracks on it, but when you listen to this record, you'll be like, man, there only needs to be these 10 songs on here because they all sound beautiful. Because I find when you have a lot of tracks, you tend to get more filler in there, and songs tend to get misplaced. But when you've only got 10 songs, it is really easy to create a nice album flow. So it's a pretty long record. It's 10 songs, but they're not the traditional 3-minute. Some of them are 5+ minutes, but a lot of them just manage to create an album that you want to come back to this record. You don't want to just listen. You don't want it as this background music. You want to this is an album where you just want to kind of pay attention to it, and you're really curious about what's going to happen next on this record. So I think this is an album that anyone should I think this is an album that anyone should check out before they die. Like whether you're an indie guy, or whether you're looking for something new and you're tired of your music always seeming so safe and predictable. This is definitely not an album like, if you're expecting something corporate and safe, this is not your record. But if you want something that's like, if you like your music with a little more depth and a little more mystery to it, well then this is the album to go with. This is Grizzly Bear's first album as a full band, for those who didn't know. And if you never heard of Grizzly Bear until watching this, I would recommend starting with this album or Dichotomous. That's another really good album of theirs. But it's really Yellow House where really the beauty, shows up in their music, in terms of like, how they're really focusing on minimalism. They're really focusing on, we need minimalism in the music, or else it's going to sound like a mess and people aren't going to want to listen to it and aren't going to think it sounds necessary. So they accomplish everything necessary here with this album. That's my review of Yellow House, the second album by Grizzly Bear. Great album, and definitely one of the best records of 2006, along with, highly recommend Nico Case's record, Fox Confessor Brings the Flood. That's another great album from 2006 that I'm probably going to review someday. So there you go. That's my review of Yellow House. I'll see you for episode 72.